Cell. A being composed of the cells of some of the most talented fighters in all of history, including galactic tyrants who can easily wipe out the entire Saiyan race, an elite warrior that has had an incredible power level since birth, a super Namekian capable of competing with androids who can one-shot fighters stronger than Frieza, and the legendary Super Saiyan that shows up only once in 1,000 years. Safe to say, Cell is probably one of the strongest fighters who has ever lived up until his point in the story. But how strong is he actually? Does he count as a solar system buster like most of the fandom suggests? Or does he reach even higher than what he's normally credited for? And how does he compare with fighters that he's often compared to, like Deborah and Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan? Well, today, hopefully I can provide you with a decent enough answer to these questions and end some of the debate surrounding this character. This video will be including information from both the manga and the anime. As for Cell, not a lot of info about him really changes, aside from a few things here and there, which I will point out, unlike some other character, which is going to get his own video. But with that aside, it's time to answer the question, how strong is Cell? So, to start off, let's discuss the basics of Cell's strength in his initial showing when he fought Piccolo fused with Kami in Gingertown after absorbing its inhabitants. Cell's initial fight with Piccolo was fairly short, but it did give us a few things to analyze and work with. First things first, while Cell wasn't as strong as Piccolo, he still should be near his level considering he took several attacks from him and was even swapping hands with Piccolo at some points during their battle. Now, some people like to say that Piccolo was most likely holding back during their fight, but there are numerous statements in several different guides, and even one by Piccolo himself, all saying that Piccolo was at full power when fighting Cell. On top of those statements, even Android 16 points out how Piccolo rivals Android 17 and 18 in strength, so no, Piccolo wasn't holding back when he fought him. So while Cell wasn't as strong as Android 17 or Piccolo, he still should be approaching that level. A more accurate level for Cell during this time would be maybe Android 18, as Android 18 is confirmed to be slightly weaker than 17 and Piccolo, not unlike Cell. Now, another way to scale Cell is to compare him to previous threats like Frieza, and to truly understand how these fighters of that level, you need to analyze the power gap between the Namek Saga and the early Android Saga, and it's retarded. Like, it's stupidly bigger than probably anyone else realizes. But to start things off, let's establish a scale. Let's say Frieza and Namek at full power is a 1 for simplicity's sake. And then we have Frieza coming back as a cyborg, and when he fights Trunks, he unleashed an attack that has over 10 times the energy of the attack that destroyed Namek. Now, since Frieza was in his 50% full power state when he destroyed Namek, that means that Mecha Frieza would be over 5 times stronger than what he was on Namek at 100%, putting Mecha Frieza at a 5. After Frieza is defeated, Trunks, the same guy who sliced Frieza like butter, then goes on to tell Goku how androids who beat his ass are coming in a few years. Piccolo overhears this and tells everyone if they don't think they stand a chance against dudes who can clap fighters above Frieza, don't bother coming. And of course, Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien all show up to the battle, meaning they should at least be as strong as Mecha Frieza, if not greater. And even the base Saiyans are consistently shown to be above the humans, well, except for Tien.
Are you done? Because I'm coming out, and I swear to God, if you do that again, I will be so freaking nettled!
Kikoho.
Oh, damn it!
They should also be comparable to Mecha Frieza, putting them all as a 5 on this scale. And with Super Saiyan, they would be a 250, as Super Saiyan is shown to be a 50 times multiplier. And Android 18 slapped around the strongest of those Super Saiyans, that being Vegeta, and as we established earlier, Cell should at least be comparable to Android 18, putting him also as a 250 on our scale. That means Cell, even at his weakest, is still 250 times stronger than Frieza, which is absurdly powerful considering even first form Frieza, who's over 226 times weaker than his final form, destroyed planet Vegeta with, according to calculations, over 10 to the 43rd joules worth of energy, which is large star level according to Versus Battle Wiki standards. Now, if we multiply this number by 226 times to get Final Form Frieza, and then again by 250 times to get the strength of Imperfect Cell, we end up with Imperfect Cell capable of producing 10 to the 47 joules of energy, which is well above baseline solar system level, which means Cell in his initial appearance is already above what people credit Cell for in his max form.
After this encounter, we really don't get too much more from Imperfect Cell besides his one encounter with Vegeta. Now, Cell considers Vegeta stronger than expected and chooses not to engage him, which some people like to take as Vegeta being superior to Imperfect Cell, which is just blatantly wrong for multiple reasons. One being that Cell is trying to hide from Piccolo and not attract too much attention to himself. And he literally only just got away from Piccolo, so Piccolo should still be in the vicinity. And on top of this, Cell scales to Android 18, who slapped Vegeta, so Cell should definitely superior to Super Saiyan Vegeta. Cell then proceeds to absorb hundreds of thousands of humans and senses Piccolo during his fight with Android 17 and arrives onto the battlefield. After which Cell easily takes care of Piccolo, tanking his light grenade with no damage whatsoever. Now, in the barrier entry for Daizenshu 7, it states if your ki is twice as strong as your opponent's, you will completely negate their attacks, which would mean Cell more than doubled his power after absorbing those humans, as he completely tanked Piccolo's light grenade. Now, while it may seem weird how Cell could have gotten that big of a power boost from just absorbing some humans, it is surprisingly consistent in Dragon Ball that when you receive other people's ki, it is an exponential amp. Like, it definitely isn't linear, and we see this multiple times, with the biggest one probably being the humans making the difference on whether the Spirit Bomb can kill Kid Buu, who, as a reminder, is a guy who can, and I quote, make the universe go poof. So yeah, there's a quick explanation for how Cell could have gotten that big of an amp. Anyway, after Cell beats down on Piccolo in 17, he fights Android 16 on a pretty even level, and most sources do say they are about equals. However, you can say Cell was slightly stronger, considering for one, Dragon Ball calls him the strongest artificial human, and two, 16 and Cell were still trading blows even after Cell regenerates his tail, which, as a reminder, reduces a person's stamina by a decent margin, as shown with Piccolo and with Nail. But if you want to say they're equal in strength, that's fine as well. Cell then proceeds to absorb Android 17 and transforms into what the fandom calls Semi-Perfect Cell, in which this form really doesn't have a lot of information surrounding it. There's no real statement saying how strong it is in comparison to his first form. They all just say, oh, Cell got big Omega power up, he big, strong, tough now. However, I did come up with two ways to compare this form's strength in comparison to his first one. The first one is to say while suppressed he tanked a punch from Android 16, who he was relative to earlier, which, as we established earlier, would imply Cell got at least 2 times stronger from absorbing 17, but this is only Semi-Cell in his initial state, and as we see later, Cell powers up numerous times when fighting Vegeta. So a more fair multiplier would be a 3 times boost or greater. The other way you can scale the form's boost is to compare it to the boost he got when he became Perfect Cell, in which EML states that Grade 3 Trunks is 10 times stronger than Grade 2, which dominated Semi-Cell. And with Perfect Cell being even stronger than Grade 3 Trunks, which I will explain why is that the case for numerous reasons once I get into Perfect Cell selling, would imply Cell got a 10 times amp from Semi-Cell to Perfect Cell. And since Semi-Cell absorbed a stronger android, I do not think it would be far-fetched to say he got the same amp, if not greater. which would mean Semi-Cell got over a 10 times amp as a result of absorbing Android 17. But if you don't want to believe this argument, feel free to disagree, but you should still know that he should have at least doubled his power as a result of absorbing Android 17. Aside from that, Semi-Cell really doesn't have any other things worth mentioning, which leads me to how Semi-Cell absorbs Android 18 and transforms into what we call Perfect Cell.
This is where most of the video's link is going to end up, as this form has the most to talk about, besides maybe Super Perfect Cell, which I will get into much later in the video. From the get-go, Cell completely tanks blows from Krillin and Grade 2 Trunks. He even takes Destructo Disc to the neck without damage. As a reminder, this same technique can work on people much stronger than Krillin, as we saw with Frieza. Cell then kicks Krillin so incredibly fast he doesn't even have time to feel pain. And Krillin then elaborated how he did this with just a tap and explains how Vegeta is done for, which ends up being true as Vegeta kicks one of Cell's vital points and takes no damage from it. Cell responds to this by nearly KOing Vegeta with a single kick. Vegeta then proceeds to use the final flash, which even an off-guard Cell can react to, as he makes it so the beam only hits part of his body. Now, Cell reacting to this is more impressive than it seems, as in the anime, the beam hits a celestial body in a matter of 4 seconds, which has been calculated to have a ridiculous speed of 5 million times the speed of light. Yeah. The calc is in the description if you want to see how exactly they got that result. Anyway, Cell proceeds to fight Grade 3 Trunks, who he says is even stronger than he is. However, Cell is either referring to his suppressed state, or is just flat out lying to Trunks. The reason for this is 1. Cell takes practically no damage from any of Trunks' attacks while holding back, as Korin states later that Cell hasn't shown his full power yet. The second reason is how Cell is equal to or stronger than Mastered Super Saiyan Goku, who is stated to have achieved beyond everyone. Couple these reasons with the numerous statements from multiple different guides that say Cell was the strongest in the universe, and we can deduce that he was in fact stronger than Grade 3 Trunks, he wasn't just faster. In the end, Cell defeats Trunks but decides to spare him to let the Z Fighters grow stronger, in which they do. As shown when MSJ Goku emerges from the time chamber and easily exceeds Vegeta and Trunks with just half of his power. Despite this massive power boost, Goku still concedes inferiority to Cell, which is a little over-exaggerated in the anime, and claims he has never seen anyone as strong as Cell, which would include himself and Mastered Super Saiyan Gohan. The Cell games then begin with Cell vs Goku, well, unless he includes his fight with Hercule. The two then warm up a bit, where Goku admits that Cell is stronger than he thought and would finish him instantly if he got at all careless. This next part is where the anime and manga differ pretty significantly. In the anime, Cell is stated numerous times to be at full power versus Goku, and this is hammered in as there are 5 statements in the anime that suggest he is fighting all out, and 2 other statements in guidebooks, adding up to a total of 7 statements saying Cell was fighting at his full power. This is different from the manga, as in El Manga Legendario, it is directly stated he was holding back against Goku, and also implied by Goku, as he says Cell is finally showing off his full power when he fights Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. The manga further differentiates from the anime by saying the battle only seemed evenly matched, and points out how Cell was actually bullying Goku the entire time. The anime further differs from the manga by having Cell use numerous techniques versus Goku, including the multi-form, which doesn't actually divide his power, causing Tien to get jealous and say Cell made the technique his own even more than he did. Besides this, the anime and manga remain fairly the same, as both versions Cell destroys the ring they are fighting in and proceed with their battle using the entire planet as their battlefield, which leads Goku using the instant transmission Kamehameha, which obliterates the top half of Cell's body. However, Cell easily regenerates from his wounds with hardly any loss in stamina, which does lead me into how Cell might just actually have infinite stamina. Even if you want to dismiss the numerous statements from Dragon Book and Ultimate Battle Collection saying his power is inexhaustible and saying he has unlimited energy, Daizenshuu 7 states that Cell inherited Android 17's infinite energy reactor, meaning Cell actually does have infinite stamina. Now, some people may call this bullshit, as Cell is shown huffing and puffing versus Goku, but you can easily dismiss this by saying that while Cell can lose stamina, he can just refill it by tapping into that infinite energy reactor, therefore not contradicting the idea he has infinite stamina. Anyway, Cell then bullies Goku to the point where he feels confident enough to have Goku eat a senzu bean and continue fighting him while he himself is weakened. Even if Cell can't get tired, he can still be weakened if his body is broken, so this should still show how Cell is considerably stronger than Goku, and in fact, Cell even says a healed Goku only has a slim chance of beating him. This leads to Goku conceding to Cell and nominating Gohan as the next fighter and commenting how he is someone who is stronger than himself and Cell. Goku then proceeds to give Cell a senzu bean, healing him and most likely giving him a power boost, as Saiyans get stronger as they fight and recover from their injuries, with Cell being part Saiyan. Gohan then powers up to max, in which Cell seems to admit Gohan is stronger than Goku, as he says the only part of Goku's claim that was exaggerated was the bit about Gohan being stronger than him. Cell then utterly bullies Gohan while holding back, showcasing that Cell is clearly superior to Mastered Super Saiyan Gohan.
Look at you, Goku!
Now, some people will claim Gohan is mentally nerfed here due to his reluctance to fight, but Gohan isn't really fighting here, he's more so just trying to avoid Cell's attacks. Which I don't see why he would be nerfed from doing that, so no, Gohan's reluctance to fight shouldn't dismiss the feat at all. Anyway, Cell tortures Gohan while trying to draw out his anger to have a more exciting battle, which leads to Goku revealing his plan to the rest of the cast, saying how Gohan's only hope of beating Cell is for him to get a Rage Amp. And this is before Goku realized how Gohan dislikes fighting. So this means even Goku thinks Gohan is inferior to Cell without any Rage Amps. El Manga Legendario seemingly goes against this by saying Gohan acquired power that surpassed everyone, but this could easily be talking about Super Saiyan 2, as he did acquire it, even if he can't currently use it. Kind of like how Goku acquired Mastered Ultra Instinct in the terms of power, but couldn't use it at will. And to end all debates on MSJ Gohan vs Perfect Cell, the manga volume description straight up confirms Cell was the strongest in the universe before Gohan became a Super Saiyan 2. Going back to the story, Cell then ejects 7 Cell Juniors to torture the Z Fighters to draw out Gohan's anger. And here's a fun fact about the Cell Juniors. Apparently, according to all the guidebooks, they all have equal power to Cell, which is kinda crazy. Anyway, Gohan eventually does cut loose and unleash his rage in Super Saiyan, but even this Rage Amp is not enough to overcome Cell, as Cell asks if this is the power he waited for in a mocking way. It is only until Gohan starts to become a Super Saiyan 2 and where Gohan's power becomes too much for Cell to handle, as we see when Gohan starts overwhelming Cell. An interesting thing about Super Saiyan 2 Gohan here is that he was apparently fighting at full power versus Cell, which could mean that the Kamehameha he fired at Cell that obliterated most of his body was a full power one, which will be relevant later once I get into Super Perfect Cell. Seeing that he is in a corner, Cell decides to bulk up into Super Saiyan Grade 3, making the same mistake Trunks did when he too used the same form. Gohan easily dispatches this bulked up Cell, causing him to spit out 18 and revert to his second form, where he then decides to self-destruct to take out Gohan with him. Fortunately, in one of the most iconic scenes of Dragon Ball, Goku sacrifices himself to save the Earth and teleports Cell to King Kai's planet, where he detonated, killing both Goku and Cell. Or, that's what I would say, but it's you and I and the rest of the fandom knows, that was not the end of Cell. And I'm gonna have to end it here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I said I was gonna cover the shit for Super Perfect Cell and Cell vs. Deborah and blah 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 blah. It's just that while writing the script for this, I realized this video is gonna be way longer than intended. So I'm gonna have to split this into 2 parts as we are already at 20 minutes here, and I don't want this being like a 40-minute video or some shit like that. Regardless, I do hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for the next batch of videos that I'm going to drop before part 2. And please, if you like my content, click that subscribe button and keep an eye out for more videos, and especially keep an eye out for this next one, which I think you will all get something out of. Later.